A couple more questions. Hang in there. One question is, does the deep state kill people who fight against them? How much does the deep state push back? And are you worried about like how the deep state would push back against you?
So let me answer the second part this way. By you asking that question, I want you to take this how I say it. You are not ready to be uh you don't have the necessary courage to maximally come after them. Okay.
Okay.
Just by asking that question.
So you have to
Okay.
be willing to face death.
So yeah, I tell everybody, if you're asking me that question, maybe I shouldn't be talking to you, or maybe I should be motivating you to get to the point where you will never ask that question again, because the question should be asked. That same question should be asked of everyone on my list. Let me quote you. Highlight it again. It
Highlight what
essentially
again? Oh,
states, should those members on my deep state target list be concerned and fear and be fearful? Absolutely. As long as I'm around, absolutely. What's your next question?
uh, okay. Let's see. Next question is, uh,
And as far as killing, I mean,
yeah,
we already covered that.
yeah,
I mean, what did
MLK.
they do to
Well,
Martin Luther
well,
King Jr.?
well. Okay, so let me just say one
What did
thing.
they
Like,
do to Trump just like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
yes. Okay, so but let me it's try to elaborate that a little bit more. Yes, I fully acknowledge that there obviously it seems like the FBI has obviously assassinated people. But my point is the ones we know about are top dogs, like a president or the Kennedys or MLK or Malcolm X. My question is, do they actually kill smaller level people who are coming up that nobody knows about? Does that make sense?
I'll give you a lot of examples.
Okay.
Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan, Anwar al-Awlaki, John Brennan used a drone without due process, vigilante style, murdered an American citizen abroad. That was Barry Hussein using, remember presidential
Yes,
findings we talked about?
yes, but
Covert action,
yes.
Johnny Boy Brennan executed.
Okay, so but let me
And then what about
emphasize.
the Fauci funded Wuhan lab incident? How many people did they murder as a consequence of the Fauci funded lab incident?
Right, but okay, so but
And
let
then
me.
how many people did they murder utilizing big pharma?
Well, many,
Let's
many.
just use the
Okay,
CDC's
but
own
those are
data.
well, those are okay, okay. But let me just talk about these specific names. So, like Ashley Babbitt, that was the person who was shot on January 6th. She was coming through a window. The Anwar al Awlaki guy, that guy was actually in he was either in Pakistan or Afghanistan. I can't remember which one, but he was like part of like a terror network, right?
Yeah, but who makes the decision on
Right. So
whether or
I'm
not
not.
to execute an American citizen?
Yes, I fully agree that there's
I
a
don't
great.
disagree with what you said.
Yeah. So
I think the best thing to take a look at, if you have 22 hours, why
yeah,
don't you watch and listen? Rand Paul on the
yeah,
Senate floor filibustering for 22 hours, calling out the drone strike murder of Anwar al-Awlaki, of an American citizen. He could be the biggest scumbag in the world, right?
yeah,
One, he's an American citizen. He's afforded actually some rights. And it's
yeah.
not up to Barry Hussein and John Brennan to
To decide.
unilaterally decide to murder someone.
Yes, I agree with that. And essentially that sets a bad precedence where you don't know who they might be killing. So I agree. Okay. Okay, next question. Um, how can normal so then again, how can normal Americans fight against the deep state if in theory they could be targeted or whatever? Like how can normal Americans fight against
It's so simple. You take a look at my deep state target list. You take a look and see where do some of those members of the deep state target list live. They may be your neighbor. They may go to an event or an activity with you, right?
this? Okay.
They may be a colleague. They may be a relative, right? They may be in your household. And so, what do you do with that information? You then find out everything about them, and you're like, ooh, what Ivan's laying out is supported by massive amounts of evidence. I don't like that. So then you ask yourself, what can I do? Well, you can start out with exercising your First Amendment. in their face. And then you can go where they go shopping, right?
Hmm.
For some, actually, if you want a specific person, their address, their home, their vehicle make and model, direct message me. I can provide all of that. I can't do it publicly because then that's considered, the doxing thing.
Yeah.
But I can privately communicate to whoever requests it specific information that they may want, to then be able to be a very creative thinker to determine how can you use that information to maximally apply the necessary legal, moral, and ethical consequence to that individual.
Right. Well,
And
I
if the
agree.
technology is there for them to illegally spy on us, that means the technology is there to conduct investigative journalism on
Right.
them as we find as much as we can about them until we do to them what they've been doing to us. You
Yes.
find me the deep state actor, and I'll find you the crime.
Yes. Well, Camille Paglia has a quote that's something like, "You need to name names," and I think that's one thing that you're doing. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's one
And they're
important
starting
thing.
to squirm because the
Yes.
radical left publications like Raw Sewage are getting even comments from Jamie Ratskin and Alexander Vinman and Julie Farnham, the deputy head of Intel and Interagency Coordination Division over at U.S. Capitol Police, formerly on January 6th, that was involved in the Fedsurrection. She's part of the Fedsurrection 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Next question. Is the um is the deep state the same or different from the globalists? Like, so if the deep state is
For
FBI,
me, yes.
it's the
Yeah.
same. Okay.
My definition was no, it's different.
Oh, it's different. Okay. So who are the globalists? Because I've heard General Flynn talk about the globalists. I've heard Alex Jones talk about the globalists. Mike Benz kind of seems to say like the globalists is like this NATO conglomerate that wants like uniform government. But I don't quite understand. Is that the same or different, and how is it different?
So my whole motto is castrate the deep state and then crush the commies. So domestically, it's the deep state, and then globalists are international forces coupled with influential billionaire forces worldwide, to include the United States, that were never in or formerly govern like U.S. government, that form that globalist cabal. Let's name some names.
Okay.
Okay, if China is in a position now, basically overtaking the four elements of national power, and is now in the number one spot globally of the 193 countries, according to the UN, then they're going to leverage global institutions to promote their global hegemony.
Right.
Some of those institutions are going to be the United Nations, the World Health Organization, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
World Economic Forum. So I think the key names that come to mind are going to be Xi, Klaus Schwab, Harari. Heard of that name?
Yeah, he wrote a book. I read his book. Yes, he wrote *Sapiens*, right? He's a professor or
Yeah.
something.
And so who else? Bill Gates, right?
Yeah, I'm probably
So
spelling
you
his
have
name.
these interests that are, without going into too much detail, that is, the globalists are the people that are behind those general interests that I explained.
Right.
Quite a few billionaires that essentially want to continue to escalate their influence, dominion, and control over the global order and all individuals. Now, the problem is that the richest of the billionaires is countering that.
Elon.
Elon.
Yeah.
And so you're basically have, but here's the deal. Elon Musk represents the leader in Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
left to right.
Right.
Like up until he got into politics, everybody respected Elon, no
Right.
matter what side of the aisle you were on. And so by purchasing Twitter, now X, he has a platform, almost 200 million followers on that platform, to be able to kind of like convey his thought process.
Right.
And a lot of the people that weren't complicit in this censorship industrial complex, well, the ones that weren't complicit, that leaned left for whatever reason, primarily because of the censorship industrial complex, manipulated them into it. Those key leaders in Silicon Valley are now moving, whereas before they were radical left Democrat supporters and total TDSers. They're seeing Elon Musk's move to support Trump. It's a seismic shift within the Silicon Valley bubble. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that from the perspective of, hey, not only did I teach on the East Coast, but on the left coast, I was in the reserves technology scout on behalf of the Army,
Right.
focused on AI, mixed reality, gaming. So, I mean, I've been to the Battery. I've bumped into Elon. I've bumped into Jason Calacanis, which is considered the number one super angel investor in Silicon Valley. And as you observe and watch Jason's Twitter account, which is at Jason, by the way, he's the person that has serial number 000001
For Jason.
of the Tesla Model S.
Okay.
So he's tight with Elon. So Elon is literally changing the psyche and mindset like wholesale of Silicon Valley because of
Right.
the amount of leverage, and not only that, the respect that he's earned over the course of his businesses. Because you just don't you you create businesses based on the network you've created, and they've been very successful. So the infrastructure at play, I mean, he's literally changing the culture, but in Silicon Valley. But in addition to that, he's changing the culture of like tech in general. Obviously he's moved to Texas, but my point here is that Jason Calacanis has so much leverage over the startup and early stage venture community. And Elon has such a foothold and influence over the later stage venture capital community
Mm-hmm.
that between the two of them, they can really change on how that entire community conducts itself in this 2024 election cycle. Like it massively.
Right. So he can have a
And
major
that
influence.
literally maybe is the only institution that can counter
The globalist.
the globalists.
Yeah.
And Peter Thiel is obviously in that mix. Like those three, I would say, have an outsized position of influence. Number one, Peter. Number two, I shouldn't say it that way. Elon and Peter, and then Jason is kind of the litmus test for those that are moderate leftists that are like, all right, I've been presented the evidence. I'm not going to say I was duped, but I was duped. Now I'm going to pivot.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that is response to what are the
I know
globalists?
these people, by the way, right? So, like,
Yeah.
for,
Other questions. At one point in one interview, I heard you say something very interesting to me, which was you have teams monitoring people's computer activity. Can you explain what you mean by that? Or is that something that you can talk about?
yeah, I mean, just the regular research.
Okay, so regular open research. Okay. I was wondering if you had like a whole cyber team that was like oh, studying IP addresses or something. Okay. Okay.
Let me answer it this way. I'm doing everything that the law allows me to do to the max,
To the max. Okay.
legally, morally, and ethically.
Got it. Okay. Next question is because you've been surveilled, do you take any cybersecurity measures to protect yourself?
And that's an interesting question.
And actually maybe I mean maybe you don't want to say that because maybe that would open you up. But I guess what I'm wondering is should Americans who worry about being surveilled take cybersecurity measures to protect themselves from the government?
Let me answer it this way. I
Okay.
want as many members of the belligerent, illegitimate executive branch to monitor me so I can red pill them all.
I like being monitored. To red pill them. Okay, I got it. That's funny. That's actually a good attitude. It's kind of like
Now, think about it. Like, you know, your life and your lifestyle, and if you lived it cleanly, right?
yeah,
And even if you did like somehow make some whatever mistake, if you are like always operating in good faith, trying to make sure and maximize that everything you do is legal, right?
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with your own self
Yep.
and you being exposed maximally, right?
Yes, that's how I feel. Yeah, you
And
kind of
so
just have
when
to
you
live.
know that about yourself and you have the confidence to be like, you know what? I got nothing to hide. Come after me.
Right. Yeah, that's how I feel.
It
It,
allows the system, like it's backfiring because I give you one example. When
mhm.
all these people are investigating me across DOD, DHS, DOJ, it forces them to be like in a position of like, damn, Ivan knows his stuff. Like, he's literally egging us on to investigate him. And when we investigate him, we see that he's always up on the line
Yeah.
because it almost he's like a mousetrap. He
Yes.
knows what he's doing. He forces us to expend massive amounts of resources to come after him. He never crosses the line, but it's like so close that we have to investigate him. And now we're exposing ourselves by doing it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. So
Right.
the more of you that come after me, you are now creating a reverse investigation on you because I know enough people in the system that I get alerted immediately
Right.
on who and what they're doing to investigate me.
Right.
And how is that communicated to me? In the most secure way possible, meaning not in digital form.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, actually, okay, yeah, not in digital form. Okay, we've talked a lot about all these corrupt
Yeah, my
organizations.
gut feeling tells me you have a this is going somewhere other than what you're exposing that it's going to go to. Is my
What do you
gut feeling.
what do you mean?
Because some of these lines of questioning is exactly what they would want to find out from me to
No,
see where my vulnerabilities are in order to be able
well,
to kind of somehow get in there and
no,
burrow
okay,
in.
well, let me say again, I'm just going to post this right away and I'm acting in good faith. The reason I ask these questions is because I think that I am being surveilled. That's why I'm asking these questions. So again, like I might seem like a nobody, but I'm a tenured associate professor at a major university where the CIA does a lot of recruiting, and I've traveled to China a few times, and so and I have an expertise in biotechnology, which is essentially if you're engineering viruses, like you'd want that expertise. So I think I might actually be monitored, and so I'm asking you questions as somebody who has been monitored, like how do I need to prepare my life, if that makes sense? That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, I mean, I just operate full transparency. I mean, I do like 10 hours. It's like seems like 5 to 10 hours of podcasting every day. And
Yeah, kind of like you kind of like have said everything. Yeah, and so if you're just like if you're don't break the law, I guess. Yeah. Okay, can we these corrupt government organizations, can they be saved or should they just be outright eradicated?
I say, I mean, the simple response is why don't you use the Elon Musk model and methodology? Remove
80%.
80% to start and
Yeah.
then siphon off the remaining 50% of the 20% that is left. So then you have 10%. There's the whole adage
Yeah.
10% do 90% of the work.
Yeah, 80
And
20.
I'd say 10% do 90% of the work. So
Yeah.
why don't we just remove everybody and then only leave in the most capable, the most critical thinking, the most physically fit, mentally acute, competent, constitutionally minded
Yeah.
individuals in our federal government. I mean, we can lop off several departments when you go
Right.
back to the base constitution in order to provide for the common defense is about it.
Right.
So an outwardly facing, say, Department of Defense that is a much scaled down version that has surgical strategic strike capability to respond to our adversaries immediately. That's basically it. Everything else needs to reside and rest with the states, and they can bloat it how they want. There shouldn't be any of this coercive manipulation based on funding of the federal government that prints money, launders it through Ukraine, sends it partially over to FTX so that Sam Bankman Fried can fund the Democrat PACs known as Chucky Boy Schumer PAC and
Right.
then Nancy Pelosi PAC. And then the number two guy at FTX, Ryan Salome, does the same thing with the Republican PACs, Kevin McCarthy PAC and Mitch McConnell PAC. How
Right.
about we stop all that? by lopping off 90% and leaving in those critical thinkers that are really that have already shown over the last several years they're willing to go to the mat to make sure that they're operating in the legal, moral, and ethical kind of time space continuum.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so fire 80% of these corrupt organizations, keep
Probably
the
90.
90%, keep the good guys. Okay, we can wrap it up here. I'm getting pretty close to the end, but there are just a few final, very important questions that I think you have good.
Now let's do it all. Let's go.
You want to do it all? Okay,
It's
okay,
all or nothing.
okay. All or nothing. You're a completionist. I like that. Okay. Was there ever like a eureka moment, like when you're studying like the deep state, and you think that you're being investigated and you're investigating them? Was there any one moment that was like, aha?
Yes.
Okay, what
My
was that?
massive eureka moment was when I was like, and I'm mad at myself for it too. As soon as it came, the eureka came, I was like, damn, why didn't I think of this the
Yeah,
day that Elon Musk purchased Twitter?
yeah,
The eureka moment was like, wait, Jim Baker is over at Twitter. He's
yes,
probably communicating with everybody from his former colleagues.
yes,
Wait, he probably ran that whole op. How do we
yeah,
get that evidence? Oh, Elon Musk purchased Twitter. How can we mitigate risk so that he can do that? And then next thing you know, he's like transferring over to Texas.
yeah,
So
yeah,
bottom line is the whole mother of all Twitter files didn't come to me until some of the Twitter files started to come out. And
yeah,
I'm like, wait, these Twitter files aren't exposing the direct messages. They're
yeah,
only exposing the internal Slack channel stuff and only some of it, and then emails.
yeah,
Why don't we like take this to the next level of everything that Twitter has?
yeah. They should release it. I
And
agree.
that's when the Eureka mother of all Twitter files came to me, probably last fall,
Okay,
maybe longer than that.
got it. Okay. What supplements do you take? You're pretty fit. Uh, Former Green Beret. What supplements do you take, and what's your workout regimen?
Dang, we're going deep dive over here.
Yeah.
So I like to swim.
Okay. Swimming.
So I over my lifetime I've done ultra marathons.
Yeah.
So marathon, long distance, 26, 50 miles, 100 miles. I did a 1,776 mile run one year. I don't know if
Wow.
you remember that.
No.
If as you did research of me before I ran for Senate, I did my exploratory phase where I ran 22 miles a day through every county and city in Virginia, totaling 1,776 miles.
Oh my
And that
God.
was 22 was representative of the veterans, average number of veterans that commit suicide each day
Oh wow.
to raise awareness to that. And then 1776, obviously, for obvious reasons. So that took me 81 days
Wow.
every day.
Oh my God. That's gotta take.
Swimming, I like hiking, outdoor activity.
Okay.
And then as far as supplements, I mean, not really, just for recovery stuff, because I broke my leg in January,
Yeah.
tobogganing. So I've
Yeah.
been taking some of the, what is it? Not a little bit of fish oil. And then, but
Fish oil.
recently, not really, just eating healthy,
Okay.
fruits, veggies,
Fish oil. Eat healthy.
poultry,
Poultry. I like chicken.
fish.
Okay.
Try
Okay.
to be lean meat. You know,
Yeah.
I do one sit up a month. No,
One sit up a month. I'm sure you do
push
one
ups,
sit up.
sit ups.
Yeah. Push up, sit ups. Okay.
What else? Squats. I mean, just basically, I don't like to do weights, body weight activity, and then biking, swimming. Right now I'm in the middle of getting to where I'm walking normal and I'm starting to jog because
Yeah.
I'm trying to get back my leg recovered to do the Army 10 miler,
Yeah.
the Marine Corps marathon. So October, November, and then maybe I can do a ultra marathon in December.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Current events. Okay. So these are current things that have basically been happening. Questions about those. So, do we need a radical reassessment of who our enemies and allies are? So, for example, I never really bought the argument that Russia is our enemy. I don't understand that. I don't understand why Russia has to be our enemy. Also, it makes me worried that the UK and the EU are trying to censor our citizens. So it makes me wonder.
I don't care about any like as my house is burning down, I could care less about any other country right now
Yeah,
until we get our own house in order.
we need to focus on ourselves. Okay, I agree with that.
I'm not like most of Congress. They are Israel first, China
Yeah,
first, um, Ukraine first. That's not
yeah,
me.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't like the foreign wars. Um, yeah, I wish we could focus on ourselves. But okay, so you're not going to make a comment about, well, I think these people should be our enemies, or these people who are our allies, maybe they're not actually
Our
our
biggest
allies,
enemies right now are go back up this document.
are the internal deep state.
Is the internal threat. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, we already answered this one. Has the CIA been turned against U.S. citizens? Yes.
Yep.
Uh,
See above.
do you have okay? But since we're a completionist, do you have any comments about MK Ultra or voice to skull weapons? I'm very interested in this voice to skull thing, which is as Neuralink develops technologies and chips to read people's brainwaves, there might be weapons, secret weapons that the military develops where they can implant thoughts into people's heads. I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that, or with MK Ultra, which is a brainwashing sort of mission from the CIA.
So in today's day and age, you don't really need the brain to computer interface
Yeah.
from a like the physical touch point standpoint.
Okay.
Your eyes are like
Yes, they're part of your brain.
the CCP through its big tech surrogates are basically convincing a large swath of American society that mutilating your child is a great revenue stream for those promoting it. So that for the
Is that through
lifetime
TikTok?
of that mutilation of the child, they can now sell them puberty blockers
Yeah.
and chemical devices to keep them at a stable level. I mean, Elon Musk was duped into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's sad. So that's through TikTok? Is that
Yeah, it's called self mutilation or child mutilation. Like I don't go by that term. It's an inaccurate term. Okay,
what's an
just
inaccurate
like
term?
that one that you're highlighted over right now.
This
That's
one?
called mutilation. That's
Oh.
called maiming, disfigurement.
Oh yeah, I agree. Um, I'm just trying to get it into the term that they use because that would
That's
contextualize
an
it.
incorrect term.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, okay. You can get rid of that term in the notes. I agree that it's self mutilation. But essentially, you're saying that through TikTok, which is pushing, TikTok is the largest app that's pushing sort of like this
Yeah,
bizarre,
commie talk.
yeah, this
I mean, it's
bizarre,
so evident. It's like, hey,
yeah,
destroy your country. We're going to create a new product line. You're
yeah,
going to go ahead and spend thousands of dollars to mutilate your child.
yeah,
And then you're going to spend thousands of dollars annually to keep that child chemically balanced so that they
yeah.
don't commit suicide.
Yeah, it's disturbing. So you're saying eyes are part of the brain. You don't even need the brain to computer interface. You just need access
But
to the
now,
knowledge.
having said that,
Yeah.
as a technology scout,
Yeah.
let's just say hypothetically, maybe I talked to different companies
Yeah.
that had a capability similar to the Elon Musk Neuralink. But
Yeah.
instead of being invasive and going subskull,
Yeah.
they could communicate with the brain, knowing and mapping out the brain itself
Yeah.
with a device external to the skull to be able to communicate with the brain
Can you
through
say
the
who these
skull.
can you say who these companies are, or you know?
So this
Is it secret?
capability still is in its infancy.
Okay.
So I would say, like, is that something in the future that we need to be concerned with? Absolutely.
Well, what
I mean,
I always wonder is, I mean,
just like
DARPA.
RFID technology, when you go and
Yeah.
scan and pay,
Yeah.
we're gonna get to the point where, yeah, you're gonna be able to hack the brain remotely.
Well, and what I wonder is, again, if we're talking about stuff that companies have, whatever DARPA has or whatever advanced militaries have must be, I don't know how many years advanced, but in the future.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Not necessarily. Is it possible? Yes, but not necessarily.
Okay.
At this point in time, it's more likely that you're going to see commercial off the shelf capability advancing more rapidly.
Okay.
But there is a possibility that they do have a more robust capability, but not
Interesting.
likely.
Okay. Okay, are members of Congress influenced by foreign countries? And who, let's see, we already answered who are the globalists, but like who are the worst actors in Congress? And who are the people who are really advocating not for the United States, but in fact for other countries?
Don Bacon,
Don Bacon. I never heard that name before. Who
Ukraine. Ukraine first.
is he a representative or senator
He's a House rep from Lincoln, Nebraska.
from Nebraska? Interesting. Is he Ukrainian
No,
ancestry? He just
former
likes it.
Air Force.
Okay,
I think he's a former Air Force colonel or something.
I see.
All right, so basically, every Democrat
Yeah,
would be my
all the Democrats.
response to that,
Okay.
and 90% of Republicans.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is kind of the uniparty thing.
Now, I say that facetiously. Like some of the freshman Democrats that are, especially veterans that are freshman Democrats, are
Yeah,
probably not going to fall into that category, at least
yeah,
not until like their first month in
yeah,
office.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I'd say your really strong Freedom Caucus members
yeah,
are not going to be in that group. They're going to be your America First crowd.
yeah. So it's easier to name the people who are,
So there's 6 that never voted for Kevin McCarthy that are
yeah,
safe. There's 8 that removed Kevin McCarthy. It's fairly safe. And then you have, you know, about 3 dozen members of the House Freedom Caucus. Then you have adjacent affiliates. And then beyond that, it starts to kind of taper off and get worse. You got to
right,
remember that Greg Pence, brother of Mikey, is in office as a congressman. You
right,
got Don Bacon. You got 2 remaining impeachment voters, David Valadao, right? Who helped Jamie Ratskin. These are Republicans, by the way.
yeah,
David Valadao from California voted with Jamie Rat to support Jamie Ratskin for the Fedsurrection cover-up.
right,
Another one is Dan Newhouse from Washington. Luckily, we got a guy that he's Trump and Flynn endorsed, Mr. Sessler, that just finished the primary and came out first against the incumbent, Dan Newhouse, but
mm,
now it's a runoff again between the incumbent and Sessler.
mm.
So that's probably the most important House race, I would argue, in this election cycle, U.S. House,
Dan
where we
Newhouse.
need to make sure that the incumbent, Dan Newhouse, gets obliterated.
Okay. What? Just for clarification, what state is he in? Dan Newhouse,
Washington, I think, 4th congressional district,
Washington for. Okay.
3rd or 4th.
Okay. Okay. Um, let's see. We answered the question about globalists, illegal immigrants. So we have a border that is wide open. People can just walk across the border. I believe that many of the immigrants coming across, we don't know who they are, we don't know what they're doing, we don't know what their intentions are. I think it's dangerous. Do you have any comments about? Do you think the illegal immigrants are dangerous, and are we putting ourselves at risk that foreign combatants are going to come across our border?
I'm going to answer it this way, folks. Do you think a person breaking and entering your own home is dangerous?
Yeah, yes,
There's your answer.
okay, yes, okay,
And then using your resources in your own home without your permission.
yeah, I don't
Then
like
that
that.
starts to get into burglary, right?
Yes, and parasitism.
That's the minimum
Yeah,
that's being done. It's different if you invite them, right?
yeah, yeah, I agree. I like what Vivek says about consensual immigration. It should be consensual. We should be able to decide who comes in. Okay, we answered this one about DDoS attacks. Close to the end here. Okay, miscellaneous. This one's really exciting for me because I want to buy an AR-15. I saw an advertisement on X that was something like Flintstock rifle.
Yeah, he dropped the link in there.
I cannot find that anymore. When I Google on the Google, it will not find me Flintstock rifles. What's the link? What website do I go to?
Let me find out.
Because like I want, yeah, I want to buy an official General Flynn AR-15.
You're using the wrong search engine. Commie
Yeah,
search.
yeah, I know. I'm thinking that that's the problem. I can try DuckDuckGo. What search engine do you use?
Uh, none of them are great, but there's one. Let me see here. Called Tagoda.
Yeah, I saw the advertisement and I could never get back to the original website. I can't find the website. Anytime you do any search in any search, you can't find it. So General Flynn's being shadow banned with his AR-15 company.
Let me ask.
while you're
Nice.
while you're thinking, is there any semi-automatic rifle that you would recommend as a military expert, make and model?
Use your own judgment.
Use your own judgment. Okay. Different strokes for different folks.
What's the link for Flintstock? Okay.
Okay, final thing is if there's anything that else you want to talk about, you said you wanted to talk about Mike Rogers. Or if you have any questions for me, we can talk about anything that you want to talk about.
Is he your constituent?
I am Mike Rogers' constituent. Yes, he is my representative.
You tell me this. So he chairs the House Armed Services Committee. Okay.
Yes, yes.
What has he done to expose the COVID con and the forced, duped, illegal Department of Defense CCP 19 illegal DNA mutilation jab mandate
He's done
of the
nothing.
Department of Defense?
He's done nothing. Yeah, and I don't like that.
Okay.
Should we call him about that? Like, is
All
that
right. So here's where we're at.
okay?
Me and others, not just once, on numerous occasions, have reached out to him,
Yeah,
his staff director for the House Armed Services Committee, have
yeah,
worked with other members of the House Armed Services Committee to include Corey Mills,
right.
Jim Banks, Matt Gaetz, demanding a hearing to expose to explain to America that the DOD jab mandate, the mandated one, was illegal from the onset. And then from there, what was mandated was not there was not an FDA approved product, because the one that was FDA approved improperly, it was never produced.
Yeah,
Only the emergency use authorized product was created. And the legal framework states that that cannot be forced without informed consent,
yes,
meaning making it optional based on informed consent. You
yes,
cannot force the illegal experimentation on the force. The only legal framework that allows for that is when the president of the United States, let's make the wrong assumption that he's legitimate, which would have required that Biden, the Chinese Communist Party's ambassador to the US, to go ahead and write up a waiver, basically saying that, yes, I waive the requirement due to national security concerns to go ahead and poison the force with the DNA mutilation injection, right?
you're
He
saying
didn't do
Biden?
that.
Oh, he did not do that.
Mike Rogers is part of the cabal covering up for the COVID con.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
If he does not have a hearing in September, when they come back from recess on September 9th, and I recommend the following individuals at a minimum be at the first hearing.
okay.
One, Brad Miller,
Okay.
former lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
Two,
Okay.
Brad Miller is the author of Moral Injury on Substack. bradmiller1010.substack.com. Number 2, Rob Greene, author of the book Defending the Constitution Behind Enemy Lines. Brad, former battalion commander from the 101st Airborne Division, Army guy, active. Rob Greene, still currently serving Navy 05, so lieutenant commander, same rank. Number 3, Lieutenant Mark Bashaw, B-A-S-H, yeah. He was the guy that warned his command at the Army Public Health Organization in Aberdeen Proving Ground that, hey, these emergency use authorized products aren't really working. They're unsafe and ineffective.
Yeah.
Face toilets, medical nose rapes, right? The PCR tests,
yeah.
The face mutilators, known as the face masks, where they mutilated the ears of children because they wore them for so long. They asphyxiated the child, destroying their lungs. They destroyed and created staph infections on faces of children.
And
okay.
Loss of learning. My son
loss of learning.
Yes, they can't see people's mouths speak, so they have trouble learning language.
Right. So we have that. We have the and then the subsequent DNA mutilation injections.
Yeah.
Well, he basically called that out, and the negative safety signals of the jabs. Guess what happened? He was court-martialed for warning about that. And guess who was signing the judge advocate that signed off on the court-martial?
I don't know. Somebody in our list. Somebody up here.
Yevgeny Vindman.
Oh my God. Okay.
Because he was reassigned from the White House National Security Council and then was sent up there, where he led the effort to weaponize against Lieutenant Mark Bashaw, who was thrown out of the military 17 years in.
That's shitty.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got way more people, but let's just start with those. I mean,
so
that would be the first hearing.
So
and if he doesn't hold that hearing, guess what? He needs to be removed and replaced immediately.
I'd be happy to primary him.
Please.
Well, okay. So wait. So one question is, have you tried to contact him and he won't talk?
I contacted his staff director, Chris Vieson. Write this name down.
Chris Vieson.
Chris, Vieson.
Sorry, catch that quick. Vieison. Vieson, like that? So you contacted his staff director and you did not.
Vieson.
You did not.
Christopher.Vieson at mail.house.gov is the public one.
And they never responded?
No, I mean, I talked to them and they didn't respond digitally, but in person, they're like, they're just waffling around.
I see. So he doesn't.
Mike Rogers is there to protect the system.
Yeah, that's kind of what I.
And now it's time to lump him in with the system and treat him in kind.
Interesting. Well, he has to run every 2 years, so maybe I'll start planning a primary.
Please.
I'd love to do that. Okay. Okay. Is there any questions for me?
That's one category on my deep state target list, is the COVID con.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree that, they should never have mandated any of the vaccines. And they,
like I said with the Hodge twins, I don't do mandates.
No,
because I'm a heterosexual.
Well, they tried to mandate it. Not only did they mandate it in the military, but they also mandated it at universities. So what they told the universities is we're going to cut all your federal funding unless you mandate the COVID vaccine for every single government employee.
Yeah, look at Lloyd Austin's portfolio. See how much stock he has in Pfizer.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wait, I forgot to mention. Did I mention? Yeah, I think I did. That the official fact checker for Twitter 1.0 was Roytards, and and the CEO of Roytards was also on the board of Pfizer.
Oh, wow. That's corrupt. Okay. Yeah.
Is it all making sense?
Yes. Yes.
And why was Roytards the first one to pull out as a sponsor of Elon Musk when he bought Twitter? It's because they're like, ooh, he's got our good. Run!
Yes.
Run!
Okay, well, we have spent 5 hours outlining the deep state and outlining essentially all these questions that we asked.
Yeah,
So,
that's just the deep dive. If you
yeah,
want
that's
the
deep dive.
master class, go ahead and reach out to me. That'll be a 40 hour. Uh, I accept 16 students maximum. It's going to be 10K a pop per student.
Oh, there we go. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, okay, so let me any final thoughts? Otherwise, I'll stop the recording.
This is the most exhaustive, I think, interview that I've done.
I know I can tell you're tired. I'm sorry I took all this
No,
time.
no, I can go another 35 hours.
Okay. Okay, so let me stop the recording.
Let the gate be open to die. I shall meet death head on. I shall meet death head on. Decker Kane, you've got to get out of here. Beware foul demons and beasts, there are many foes here. The time has come to cleanse my horde. This monastery reeks with evil and corruption. Oh, I hate staining my hands with the blood of foul sorcerers. Eternal suffering would be too great for you, Diablo. Let the gate be open to die. I shall meet death head on. I shall meet death head on. Decker Kane, you've got to get out of here. Beware foul demons and beasts, there are many foes here. The prime evils are no more.